So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs.
AOC.
Yeah, but first, I think we should have a moratorium on white dorks on Zoom calls.
Okay.
You know, we have like,
Done.
We have Fastest and we have fan mail, and I just can't listen to those Nate Silvers and these Saliza people just bites into this glorious show. AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions.
I think AOC sucks. I think progressive ideas are horrible.
You know, she'd be a great mime, like the Latina version of Marcel Marceau.
AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life. The reason why she gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore.
Buckle up, because here comes Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez strutting into the spotlight like she just binged a TikTok economics crash course and crowned herself queen of fiscal genius. One hand waving policy papers she clearly skimmed, the other tossing around buzzwords like confetti at a clown convention. But just when the show couldn't spiral any further into political absurdity, enter Greg Gutfeld, swaggering in like a late-night assassin with a smirk sharp enough to slice through socialist delusions. He doesn't just clap back, he detonates. This wasn't a debate, it was a demolition.
To be fair, she'd love to spend the $8, but she already bought a Tesla. He also tweeted a photo of some ugly AOC merch she's trying to hawk for 58 bucks. Overpriced merch, AOC. Seems pretty capitalistic of you, which according to you makes you evil. And according to anyone paying attention, also makes you full of
It kicked off like every AOC spectacle does. Lights, camera, confusion. There she was again, passionately rambling like she just discovered Karl Marx on a bumper sticker, delivering a fiery monologue about evil billionaires, imaginary money, and how utopia is just one tax the rich chant away. It was political theater meets freshman dorm debate night. But then, boom. Greg Gutfeld stormed in like the ghost of late-night comedy's golden age, armed with punchlines sharp enough to slice through socialist fantasies and the deadpan endurance of a man who's survived one too many economic fairy tales.
time AOC has taken a break from doing nothing to get into a beef with the Twitter chief. On Tuesday, she tweeted, LMAO at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 a month subscription plan. But he hit back tweeting, your feedback is appreciated, now pay $8.
Picture this, AOC wide-eyed and fired up, channeling the fury of a philosophy major mid-existential crisis, declaring that employment is just capitalist propaganda and the economy should run on vibes and equal participation trophies. Her vision? A group project utopia where effort's optional and results are feelings-based. Enter Gutfeld, silently savoring the chaos like a man watching reality TV with a glass of age sarcasm. He didn't debate, he observed. Calm, cool, and brutally amused, as AOC flailed through fiscal logic like someone trying to decode algebra through slam poetry.
I pay people to wear handcuffs. But she did this because she knew the media would obey. Let's watch the tape. You know, she'd be a great mime, like the Latina version of Marcel Marceau. In fact, here she is later in her jail cell. Of course, AOC was mocked on social media for imitating being handcuffed, which is a change from her usually being mocked for imitating a congresswoman.
And like clockwork, she dusted off the Green New Deal. Again, that infamous fantasy script where jets vanish, cows face extinction, and America trades skyscrapers for compost-powered communes fueled by recycled dreams. Watching her pitch it for the 730th time feels like witnessing someone try to auction off a cursed air fryer. Chaotic, baffling, and somehow still louder than necessary. But Gutfeld? He doesn't break a sweat. He lets the plan collapse under its own delusion. Because when AOC insists it'll pay for itself, what she's really saying is, spreadsheets are scary and math is a tool of oppression.
In need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life. The reason why she gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, you know, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like, I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983.
And just when you thought the circus had packed up, AOC dragged out her favorite hallucination, the Green New Deal. That dystopian manifesto where jets are grounded, cows are criminalized, and we all huddle in biodegradable teepees powered by fairy dust and moral superiority. Her sales pitch? Like a late-night infomercial for a broken time machine, loud, erratic, and completely disconnected from reality. And there she was, trying to convince America this economic fever dream would magically fund itself, while clearly treating Excel like a forbidden dark art. Meanwhile, Gutfeld stood back, not even bothering to argue, just watching her logic implode like a fireworks factory lit by a matchbook of wishful thinking.
But she owns a Tesla and she owns a French Bulldog, and she wants you or your dad, the electrician, to forgive her student loan. That's BS. Turn in the Tesla, sell the dog. I'll buy it half price.
And who could forget the spectacle AOC delivered while passionately defending her economic fantasies? Arms flailing like she was conducting an orchestra of delusion, she tried to convince the world that infinite government spending is just monopoly money with a marketing degree. Meanwhile, back in actual reality, inflation's exploding like it's fueled by rocket fuel and caffeine, and basic groceries now come with payment plans. But hey, why not keep trusting the fiscal fairy tales of someone who thinks scarcity is just a corporate bedtime story? Then came her brilliant idea: guaranteed government jobs for everyone. Because nothing screams efficiency like turning your career over to an overworked, understaffed bureaucracy that moves with the urgency of a snail on vacation. Imagine the DMV running your 9 to 5, where your promotion hinges on a committee vote that only convenes during leap years. And in the midst of this economic acid trip, Greg Gutfeld didn't flinch. No grandstanding, no theatrics, just surgical sarcasm. Like a snarky emergency responder airlifting common sense into a room choking on compost-powered dreams, socialist slogans, and participation trophy logic. AOC built a stage of chaos, but Gutfeld waltzed in like a smirking realist with a fire extinguisher. Cool, collected, and absolutely done with the fantasy.
How she explains it. They're not meant for you, right? But then you have to ask, okay, then what is this debt forgiveness? Who is it meant for? And when you look at the data, it's upper, white, middle-class, liberal women. This ain't welfare, right? These are well-to-do people. It's a bribe for Democrats on the backs of plumbers, truckers, and everyone else who actually does a real job, unlike me. AOC is the symbol of the entitled sponge.
Then came AOC flailing like she was conducting an orchestra of chaos, declaring government spending limitless and money just a design choice. In her world, deficits are fashion statements, and inflation is just a capitalist scare tactic. Meanwhile, reality's on fire. Groceries priced like gold bars, and she's pitching job guarantees run by bureaucracies that make the DMV look like a Formula One pit stop. Enter Gutfeld, cool as ice, cutting through the madness without raising his voice. No debate, just a smooth extraction from AOC's fantasy land built on recycled slogans and economic fanfiction.
The reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate on half opinions. Like, what if we get rid of cash bail? Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we give trans rights that we don't have? Well, you just ruin women's sports, you ruin safe spaces, you make kids' lives hell, but you don't think about, they never think about what their ideas incentivize. That would be nice. So where are their ideas gonna come from?
But Gutfeld, completely unfazed. He blinked with the calm of a man who survived one too many dinner parties hosted by trust fund revolutionaries burning sage and blaming capitalism for their expired oat milk. With his signature deadpan, he dropped the hammer. Every time AOC gives a climate sermon, a wind turbine loses the will to spin. She's the only person who can rant about clean energy and still sound out of breath. Mention nuclear power, and she reacts like you just threatened her sourdough starter. Then came her grand finale, the cure to economic inequality. Not industry, not invention, nope, vibes. Her master plan? Fire up the money printers like it's Burning Man for bureaucrats, rain cash like confetti, and call it justice. Even astrology influencers were side-eyeing that logic. Her vision of economics? A lo-fi playlist titled Vaporwave Redistribution, Chill Lennon Beats to Ignore Inflation Too.
So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs, as she did surrender without fighting. But if her pants had cuffs, she would have pretended to be in leg irons too. But real handcuffs, not so much. But that didn't stop her from pretending, and I hate it when people do this to me. When I ask people to put on handcuffs and they say, I'll just pretend I have them on, I'd be like, sure, and I'll pretend to pay you after.
Gutfeld stood there, arms folded, eyebrow arched. No charts, no props, just that look that screamed, "Did you really just say that out loud?" With surgical calm, he dropped a truth bomb that echoed louder than any shouting match. Economics isn't a mood ring. You can't print your way out of inflation like it's an Etsy affirmation. Supply chains don't respond to energy crystals. And GDP doesn't climb just because your aura feels productive. Then came the delicious contradiction. AOC preaching anti-capitalism while live streaming from a luxury high-rise, wrapped in high-end threads, sipping matcha that costs more than a tank of gas. The villain is capitalism, yet her Wi-Fi never lags and her ring light is always on point. If performative irony were fuel, she'd light up New York City through a blackout. Gutfeld didn't shout, he simply highlighted the absurdity. She rails against mega corporations while riding their algorithms like a sponsored influencer on a soapbox. It's like protesting fast fashion while unboxing designer boots on TikTok. She calls herself a champion of the people, but her vibe screams character created by an algorithm trying to guess what working class sounds like.
Of AOC.
That's the best.
Trio, yeah.
I do. The fact, I don't think that anybody can even, I think I don't even realize how funny it is, because it's that funny that she just quietly removed the pronouns from the bio. I think that maybe these people are starting to realize that there's this huge difference between trans people and then trans activists. Obviously it's for political reasons, it was this huge loss, but at least she seems to be acknowledging, like, oh, okay, who is this for?
Yeah.
And then there's her ever-growing hit list of things she wants canceled. Gas stoves, offensive, pickup trucks, toxic, free speech, only if it flatters her worldview. It's like she's speedrunning a dystopian video game where the goal is to ban everything that doesn't pass her personal vibe check. The twist? She's not the boss of anything, unless you count her next perfectly filtered Instagram monologue. Meanwhile, Gutfeld has practically built an empire out of exposing her strategy of guilt, gaslighting, and hashtags masquerading as policy. Disagree? You're a fascist. Ask a question? You're a threat. Mention numbers? Suddenly, it's an act of aggression. Her brand is part emotional blackmail, part influencer cosplay, wrapped in a turtleneck and drenched in curated lighting. She rails against the elite while pocketing six-figure salaries, inking book deals, and strutting down red carpets like she's the main character in a political soap opera. But don't be fooled. She'll still tell you she's a victim of the system. All you have to do is check her carefully worded press release. Or better yet, her publicist's notes app.
Bernie and AOC, do you think they're banging the wrong drum here? No, the message. For example, I've never actually said the word oligarchy out loud until today. Oligarchy. What's next? Plutocracies? Shall we target plutocracies on behalf of the proletariat? I mean, that might make the purple man buns in the quad swoon, but it ain't gonna fly in the living room, kiddos. When they talk about fighting, they're saying they need a Trump. That's what they're saying. But I'm gonna define what an oligarchy is and where you can find one. It means government by the...
When she's not preaching from her eco throne, AOC's in attack mode, treating logic like a personal insult and anyone with a counterpoint like the final boss in her feelings first video game. Gutfeld just waits. She'll trip over her own argument, call it nuance, then cry racism when someone points it out. No matter the topic, climate, cash, race, or sandwich prices, she always circles back to blaming billionaires or Republicans who dared breathe near her tweets. Her takes? Less policy, more Pinterest quotes dipped in protest paint. Gutfeld doesn't debate. He dissects. And by the end, Her hot takes aren't revolutions. They're recycled rants dressed up as deep thoughts.
I don't know. I mean, it's always fun to see, a leftist yell at a leftist. But there is kind of an interesting flip going on here where hardcore leftists are in bed with the hawks. A lot of them are.
Forget the carefully curated Instagram feed. We're tearing down the facade of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's public persona, revealing the shocking truth behind her most viral moments. Was that arrest nothing more than a photo op? Did her tax the rich gown at the Met Gala truly embody her socialist ideals? Or was it the ultimate display of champagne socialism? The optics are crumbling and the contradictions are staggering. While AOC spins a web of ideological fantasy, Greg Gutfeld slices through the noise with an unfiltered dose of reality. Every time AOC steps into the spotlight, it's a cringe-worthy spectacle, a masterclass in performative activism that makes serious academics weep. Imagine a lecture on economic theory, but delivered by a TikTok influencer. That's the AOC effect. But Gutfeld isn't just watching, he's dissecting. He turns her biggest hits into a masterclass of comedic deconstruction, exposing the flimsy foundations of her arguments. It's less a debate, more a surgical takedown. As she chases fleeting outrage, Gutfeld calmly illuminates the gaping holes in her rhetoric, leaving her flailing in a whirlwind of self-inflicted drama. You won't believe what happens next.
I think AOC sucks. I think progressive ideas are horrible. It's diet communism. It's dangerous for the country. And I don't worry if she gets in the Senate because she's so ineffective as a congresswoman. I don't think that she's going to do anything of value.
Forget AOC's justice coupon codes and her policy proposals that sound like improv at a vegan cafe. While she spins ideological fairy tales, Greg Gutfeld just smirks, then drops the rhetorical equivalent of a steel trap. No yelling, no fuss, just the undeniable truth asking, "You actually believed that?" She's a bottomless pit of material, offering up economic ideas that'd bankrupt a lemonade stand and global diplomacy solved with emojis. Gutfeld doesn't destroy her out of malice. He does it because the contrast is too stark. It's the calculator versus the fortune cookie. One has data, the other just feels really, really confident. While Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, expertly crafts her political image through a blend of social media theatrics and recycled rhetoric, Greg Gutfeld remains serenely unbothered. He watches the unfolding spectacle from a distance, unfazed by the online noise, content with his position on the sidelines, coffee in hand. His approach is simple: don't engage with the absurd, just highlight it. Instead of diving into the fray, he remains keenly aware that the best response to the often inflammatory antics of modern politics is often silence, or, when necessary, a pointed, perfectly timed remark. AOC, with her brand of fiery rhetoric and emotional appeals, will continue to thrive in the online world where every tweet or Instagram post is treated as a moral victory. Her supporters cheer her on, amplifying her message through the echo chambers of social media. Whether advocating for expansive federal policies or positioning herself as a champion of the disenfranchised, her brand of politics operates more on the realm of emotive imagery than grounded policy. It's a spectacle designed for likes, shares, and retweets, rather than thoughtful debate. In contrast, Greg Gutfeld offers a refreshing counterbalance. He isn't caught up in the circus that surrounds AOC's every move. Instead of feeding into the cycle of outrage and debate, he watches it all unfold, knowing that the best response is often the one that doesn't give the absurd any power. When it comes to AOC's antics, he knows that nothing disarms performative politics like an effortless punchline. His humor, razor-sharp and deft, cuts through the noise, exposing the fragility of arguments that are based more on emotional appeal than on substance. It's not so much about attacking her personally, but rather about deflating the inflated rhetoric she relies on. What makes Gutfeld's approach so effective is its simplicity. He doesn't need to shout over the noise or engage in endless debates that go nowhere. Instead, he lets the ridiculousness of her positions speak for themselves. And when the dust settles and the online fervor dissipates, it is Gutfeld's measured approach that lingers. He doesn't get drawn into the chaos, and in doing so, he highlights the hollowness of the political theater that AOC and others like her participate in. At the end of the day, AOC will likely reappear, either with a new policy proposal based on feelings or perhaps some new moral high ground to claim. Her followers will cheer, the media will amplify her voice, and the cycle will continue. But for those watching closely, the real victory is found in the moments when someone like Gutfeld steps back and shows how common sense can deflate the performative nature of modern politics. His timing is impeccable, and his delivery is effortless, yet each quip and observation serves as a reminder of the power of reason in an era of sensationalism. While the political world may spin in ever more outrageous directions, it's the quiet, well-timed retort that often delivers the knockout blow.